Today we're going to make caramel shortbread. It's kind of a naughty recipe and it takes a bit of time. So with the long weekend coming up and half term coming up, I thought you might have a bit of time to practice this one. Okay, so let's go through the ingredients and then we'll get started. So what do we need for the base? So caramel shortbread is like a millionaire shortbread. So it has a biscuity base, a caramel middle and a chocolatey top. There is nothing, like I said, healthy about this at all, but it's really yummy and a lovely special treat. So for the base, you need 125 grams of unsalted butter, and I've softened that because we're going to whisk it up in a sec. You can see that I've got my machine here. Then I've got 150 grams of self-raising flour, and I have 50 grams of brown sugar. Okay, so self-raising flour and brown sugar. That's what we need for the base. That's what I'm going to be working on first. And then we need to make the caramel filling. So I am going to use condensed milk, 1 tin of condensed milk. I know this says caramel. I couldn't get condensed milk at the shop yesterday, so I'm going to give it a go with caramel and see how it goes. 50 mils of golden syrup. We need 75 grams of brown sugar and 125 grams of butter, which I have diced up. So that is for the filling. And then for the top, you could use plain chocolate, but I thought I would teach you a technique called marbling. So to do that, I've got 75 grams of milk chocolate and I've got 75 grams of white chocolate. If you're just going to go with just one coloured chocolate, I wouldn't recommend the white chocolate all by itself. I would go with a dark chocolate or a milk chocolate. The white chocolate on top of the caramel possibly could be a little bit sickly. It might be just a bit too sweet. So to prep before we begin our cooking, I've turned my oven on to 180 degrees Celsius and I'm getting my, what I would call a Lamington tin, but it's just a rectangular tin that is 18 centimetres across and 23 centimetres long. So to prep that, I'm going to grease it and put some parchment paper on it. So I've melted a little bit of butter in the microwave. Make sure you cover it with some paper towel when you're melting it. This took less than 15 seconds to melt. And I find using a pastry brush gets the best covering for greasing. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can just use paper towel. That's no problem at all. But I do find that it gets right into the corners, which is where cakes and biscuit bases and things get stuck if we're going to have a problem getting them out. And like I said, we're also going to line this with some parchment paper, and that will again make it easier for it to be removed as well. So when you're doing your parchment paper, make sure you cut it to the size of the base of the tin. Okay, you don't want big bits of parchment paper up the side. It ruins the appearance of the shortbread, caramel shortbread. It makes it look all wobbly around the edges. And then I usually grease the parchment paper a second time. Okay, it just makes it easier to get the parchment paper off as well. So that's our pan prepped, ready for our biscuit base and oven on. So how are we going to prepare the biscuit base? We're going to use a technique called the creaming method. Okay, it's a typical cake making technique. We do what's called cream the butter and the sugar together. So butter into the bowl, 50 grams of brown sugar into the bowl. And I'm not going to turn that on, but I'll tell you what you're looking for and I'll be back in a second to show you. You're going to put that onto a medium to high speed. You're going to whisk it up until it's pale and fluffy, okay? I'll be back in a minute to show you what creamed butter and sugar looks like.